What's up, everyone? We are back with another astrology shot to get us through the new moon in Pisces on February 27th and the 2 weeks following this lunation, with all the most important transits packed into this forecast. So you might notice I'm wearing a headset today. I mentioned at the end of my last forecast video that some things are moving in my world, and quite literally, I am moving. So I've packed up my microphone, I've packed up like my sound system. You're going to start to see things disappearing. I don't know where I'm going to record the next video from. It might be in this space, it might be somewhere else. We will see. It might be on my phone again. Things are definitely in flux. This Mars retrograde has been happening in my first house. It's been a very, very eventful retrograde. And I can't believe that it's already over by the time this is going to be gracing your screens and your ears. Mars retrograde is over. And yet Mars is moving slow. And that's kind of on brand for this Pisces new moon. Pisces new moons, new moons in general they tend to be a little bit lower energy, a little bit more introspective. Again, when the moon is not visible from the sun, it's not reflecting light. Therefore, it tends to correspond with the time where our inner world is more illuminated. And that's quite literally what the essence of Pisces is all about, ruled by Jupiter in Jupiter's nocturnal sign. It is about the expansion of the spirit from within, the expansion of the inner world. And so visualization is a really, really important piece of Pisces season. It's something that can benefit us tremendously, and especially with Mars starting to move forward very, very slowly. We find ourselves at this lunation right in between, in this like really weird spot between Mars's direct station and Venus's retrograde station. So Venus is going to station retrograde on March 1st. And I had been looking at this period where they're not overlapping. This is just like a more drawn out period of personal retrogrades. These planets do not retrograde very often. And with them kind of occurring back to back, it would appear that this is a time where a lot of people are really taking stock of their life. And there's a lot happening this month with Mercury and Neptune on the North Node. Why don't I go ahead and pull up that chart? So here's our new moon chart, February 27th, 2025. This new moon is happening at 9 degrees Pisces in 40 minutes. We're going to revisit this chart. I just want to hold this thought here that I was moving into with Mercury on the North Node with Neptune. So this alignment is going to be exact on March 1st. We're feeling it by the time of the new moon. We've been working with Neptune on the North Node for some time. I've spoken about this on the last couple of forecasts, but I've truly been experiencing this as feeling absolutely overwhelmed. And that's what I'm picking up with from other people too. I've had a lot of people reach out wondering, how to navigate these transits, how to not be fearful of all the changes that are happening. I do want to say I have an article on my website detailing all the major outer planetary shifts. So you'll get a little blurb, a little overview for everything. Pluto in Aquarius. 2025 is the first full calendar year with Pluto in Aquarius. We've got Neptune moving into Aries. We've got Saturn moving into Aries. We've got Uranus moving into Gemini this year. We've got eclipses changing signs. Over here, Pisces, Virgo. This is all very huge, and it's hard to not feel overwhelmed from the astrology perspective. It's hard to not feel overwhelmed from the existing perspective. No matter where you are in the world, there's a lot of uncertainty impacting a lot of different people right now. And I know I'm watching just chaos unfold in my country there's tremendous uncertainty. Here, I thought, our Pluto return was in late degree Capricorn. Surely things will kind of mellow out, but it I'm now feeling like maybe our Pluto return is really taking place in early Aquarius, because the Declaration of Independence was created with Pluto at the end of Capricorn, but the Revolutionary War, the American independence, really was the fight for it was taking place with Pluto in early Aquarius. So now I'm living it, I'm seeing it, and I'm like, no, this is it. This is the Pluto return. It's really chaotic right now. And so Neptune on the North Node, Neptune being a planet that dissolves boundaries, dissolves a sense of framework of what's factual or what's real or what you can set your feet upon. We're accustomed to having a certain level of foundation to exist upon. And with Neptune there, it's like, well, maybe all of that is out the window right now. There's a lot of uncertainty for a lot of people, as I was starting to say, with this back-to-back Venus retrograde and Mars retrograde. This is a time where a lot of people are reevaluating their lives, whether that is just occurring organically or whether circumstances are inviting or forcing people to reconsider. Every government employee that I've consulted with over the last year, I've seen a lot of career changes showing up for them. And now we know why. Whether they're being asked to go back in and work from home, or whether they're worried about being let go or they are getting let go. Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty for people right now. And with Mercury combining with Neptune on the North Node, it's sort of doubling down on this is not really the time where we're supposed to have concrete answers or a sense of how to proceed. This is a really soupy kind of configuration right now. Again, Mars is moving slow. We're moving right into a Venus retrograde here on this day, March 1st. So the great things about Neptune on the North Node and with Mercury there is tapping into a sense of divine guidance. Here's the thing, is that Mercury is fallen in Pisces. This is where Mercury, a planet of logic and fact, is not able to thrive in its usual conditions. So what are we doing? We're making meaning here. We're finding a way to make meaning of what's happening. This can be mystical, it could be dreamy, it could be poetic, where our prose doesn't have to be punctuated the way our English teacher would like. It's where we're able to create abstract meaning. This is something that we're going to be talking a lot about as the eclipses start to activate more along the Pisces Virgo axis, is that things aren't always going to make sense in a linear, tabulated kind of way. Our job with Pisces here is to create our own sense of meaning. And my meaning of what's happening in my life or in the world is going to be different from your meaning about what's happening. We make meaning to cope. As humans, we recognize patterns. That's why we're looking at astrology right now. Astrology helps us make meaning of the world. And just like in astrology and in this sign of Pisces, there are no absolutes. The planets are our guideposts. They help us to make sense of what the heck is happening. Try as we might, as technical as we might, to make concrete predictions. And, many of us with years of practice, we can get pretty good at it. But yet, we're continuously humbled because you can never know for sure. This universe is more intelligent than we are. The universe is more creative than we are. And in many respects, we're all co-creating our existence right now. And so there's really no way to truly anticipate what's around the corner. There are no absolutes. Which brings me to this, back to this new moon in Pisces, because this is a new moon that's ruled by Jupiter and Gemini. Jupiter wants to create like a philosophy, a version of truth. Jupiter really wants to find the truth. But in Gemini, it just can't keep up. There's too much shifting of information. There's too much of an onslaught of information. It's hard to get a straight answer. It's difficult to get facts correct. It's all a little bit chaotic right now. And it's difficult to know where to focus our attention, to focus our discontent or whatever. There are no absolutes right now, is the point with Jupiter and Gemini. Things are really sort of open-ended, open to interpretation at this time. It's just kind of a ball of confusion right now, which helps us kind of turn back to this Pisces energy of spiritual seeking. When we're not certain about what's going on, the only place to turn is within. The only place to turn is to, put yourself first right now. Self-preservation, self-protection. That's what this Mars in Cancer has been about. It's been teaching us to slow down, to protect ourselves. It's been helping us to replenish our energy, helping us to figure out where to direct our rage, even. For many of us who have been involved in resistance for a long time now, some of us longer than others, but you learn at a certain point that you can't exhaust yourself. You cannot let your spirit be crushed. And that's part of what Mars in Cancer has been so helpful for so many of us, is it's like, okay, we're going to need our energy for this. We're going to need our energy for what's ahead. Who are we really mad at? That's another question of Mars in Cancer. Who should we really be mad at? I've seen a lot of efforts to remind the public that you and I are not each other's enemies. Our views could be different, but we are not each other's enemies. We really aren't. We don't have to agree. We really don't have to agree. But the fact is that these billionaires are coming for all of us, coming for all of our prosperity. So that's who we really do need to direct our anger at, in my opinion. This is something I teach my students. When you see a new moon close to the north node like this, or the south node, that's when an eclipse can occur. This is not an eclipse, but it could have been. So I say this just to make the point that eclipse season is upon us. The month of March, we're going to see 2 eclipses. We're going to start to feel this ramp up from this new moon. So the energy is really going to start to build. So even though, as I mentioned at the beginning, Pisces new moons are meant to be more internal, more introspective, hopeful, visionary, this is also impacted by the eclipses though. So that may be where we're feeling drawn inwardly, but outwardly the world is going to go a little crazy, as it typically does during eclipse season. Eclipse season is a catalyst. It stirs the pot. It course corrects. On a mass collective level, it's usually a little bit more chaotic. On a personal level, these eclipses are going to help sort of push new storylines forward, wrap certain storylines up. And in fact, we will be seeing the last eclipse along the Aries Libra axis. So that is going to wrap some things up for folks, sort of bring some important insights for us. But yeah, eclipse seasons do stir the pot. So brace yourself. It will start to ramp up. The energy will start to feel a little bit more supercharged. And things that feel fated seem to happen during eclipses, but it is usually not a very steady time. And some of you might remember Mo and I, when we were looking at the presidential forecast, we saw March and April being really significant months. And so, yeah, I've got my popcorn ready. I'm curious to see how it's going to unfold. Again, I've had my plate really full. I haven't had a chance to kind of dive back into the nitty gritty, but I'm kind of looking at it like this. Let astrology be your guidepost to understand the times. Don't feel like we have to predict every little thing that's going to happen because we feel insecure. I think a lot of times we want to anticipate and know what's on the other side because we personally feel anxious. We feel worried. And even if you have all the answers, sometimes it doesn't necessarily make you feel better, which brings me back to the theme I kind of keep coming back to around this planetary weather, which is the importance of strengthening your spirit, the importance of making sure that you're well rested, that you have enough energy to manage all these blows, because all these outer planets are changing signs, and it's going to be a period of adaptation for us. So again, use astrology as a guidepost to understand the times, not necessarily feel like we have to anticipate everything that's around the corner, because it's just too much right now. Now, I went into a lot of detail about Venus retrograde last time, even though I wasn't really planning on it. So please go back and revisit that video, because there's going to be some gems in there that you want. But for our purposes here, Venus is stationing retrograde on March 1st. Venus is going to split her retrograde between Aries and Pisces. So she's going to station retrograde 10 degrees and 50 minutes of Aries. She's going to retrograde back into Pisces. We'll kind of revisit this as we do these bi-weekly forecasts. But for our purposes here, Venus is slowing down. Venus, when retrograde, they say don't buy things when Venus is retrograde. But I don't know about you, but I always am tempted to buy more when Venus is retrograde, because things feel more beautiful. We're more easily enamored when Venus is retrograde because she's closer to Earth. So we feel her in a different way. But this is a time of deeper inner inquiry, inner alchemy. Our own inner alchemical process is going to be taking place while Venus is retrograde in Aries, where we are really taking stock of our priorities, our relationships, where our time, energy, and money is going, and the quality of our relationships. If you have unfinished business in a relationship, it may come back up, whether you're encountering the person in real life or whether it's happening internally. A lot of times that Venus retrograde alchemical process needs to happen within because we feel incomplete with something. We need to remember it, a situation from our current standing in our life. Venus retrogrades repeat every 8 years. So think back to 2017, where Venus retrograded in this spot in your chart. What was arising for you? I personally remember this as a time of co-organizing a women's circle with my friend. And this was like a really empowering time for us. And we made a lot of really great friends during this time. And this Venus retrograde was happening in Aries right between the Women's March after Trump first got inaugurated. And then this led right into the MeToo movement. So Venus retrograde in Aries, Venus's goal is always peace, harmony, and accord. But Venus in Aries does not mind confronting some really uncomfortable topics, like things that other people really just want to leave be, some hard to broach conversation points, Venus in Aries is like, no, we need to talk about this. Venus in Aries is very direct and honest, and says like, there's things that we really need to look at. So Venus in Aries, unafraid to put your needs first. And I think this is the part of the retrograde where you got to put your cards on the table. If you're unsatisfied, if your needs aren't being met, this is the time to make it known. Because when Venus retrogrades back into Pisces, that's where you're going to find deeper compassion, deeper mutual understanding, a deeper desire to work toward repair. But while Venus is in Aries, it's kind of like, I have things that I'm pissed off about, and I just need to be blunt about it right now. I don't want to hold it to myself any longer. So, a couple more things to cover here. Mercury is going to be moving into Aries right after that alignment on the North Node. Very cool. Mercury's going to be spending a lot of time in Aries because we've got a retrograde here. So we know Mercury is going to be in Aries for roughly 2 months. And this is only going to help Venus's cause with getting straight to the chase, cutting right to the point, being very straightforward. On the 8th of March, the sun is going to form an exact trine with Mars. I have the 8th in my notes, but maybe it's actually the 7th according to this time of day here. But my notes say the 8th. Anyhow, this is kind of like a perfecting of an aspect from the new moon. The new moon is in a trine with Mars, which is why I was talking about Mars earlier. Mars recently stationed direct in Cancer. But this is a really great energy for getting a ball rolling in some way. So if you're still kind of feeling kind of slow coming off of that Mars direct station, this, even though we're in a water sign, this is really great for gathering some momentum, some sort of energy boost, some power boost. This is a great day to sweat or to be assertive. On the 11th, we've got a lovely Mercury-Venus conjunction. Even though they're a little spicy in Aries, this aspect helps us have a nicer way with words. Okay, so if you have something you need to talk to someone about, if confrontation isn't easy for you, this is the day to do it. The last thing on our agenda, and this is kind of a big one, is we have Saturn's alignment with the Sun. This is also known as a Saturn kazimi. Saturn's going to align with the heart of the Sun. So Saturn really struggles around this time where it's close to the Sun. It's difficult for Saturn. Again, Saturn wants to create order. Saturn is the rule. Saturn is concrete. As we've discussed a lot in this forecast, those are difficult to come by right now. However, when Saturn reaches the heart of the Sun, it's a point of renewal. So we all are experiencing a Saturn in Pisces transit. If you're tracking your astrology, you're tracking this transit is going to bring a great deal of awareness for you around this 3-year process. If Saturn is your time lord, if Pisces is your sign of the year, this is going to be very impactful for you. For some of the rest of us, it might take a little bit of effort for us to really tap into this. Kazimis are quiet. A lot of people don't know what to look for with kazimis. They're quiet. Again, it's like a new moon. It's obscured. We can't see Saturn at all. It's felt internally. So Saturn in Pisces has corresponded a lot with, from what I've seen, just like heaviness, hopelessness, like a sense of like, how do we recover? How do we bounce back from this? Saturn is a planet of solutions. Saturn is a planet of clarity. This alignment can bring revelations of agency. It can bring revelations of solution. It can show us where we need to boss up, where we need to grab the reins in our life, where we need to set better boundaries, both within and with other people. The sun is Apollo, the god of prophecy, the god of revelation, and Saturn is clarity. Now, it might not always be the truth that we want to hear, but it's the truth that we need to hear. It's Saturn does want to help us. Again, there's a lot of humility here, a sense of we're not shining as bright as we want to be right now, but there's a solution here for us. So pay attention to those quiet realizations, those quiet insights, and maybe you're seeing it shown to you, reflected to you from somewhere in the world, but there's some way that we can grab the reins in our life somewhere. So pay attention to what is being revealed to you because it's probably quiet but powerful. Okay. So that's all I have for this 2 weeks. I hope this period is supportive for you. I hope all the Pisces slushiness helps you to find some creative things to dream about, to visualize about, and not feeling like we're scrambling to stay up in the soup. That's probably going to be part of it for many of us, but just surrender to the soup. Just let it be. Tend to your spirit, to your creative side, tend to your spiritual side, practice some good old spiritual hygiene here. And I hope ultimately this period is supportive for you and you've got some rocks in your life that you can depend on as we move through eclipse season. So for right now, that's your astrology shot of March, end of February, March, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in with me today. For more astrology in your world, you can connect with me on all platforms at Astro Catherine. You can also head on over to my website, catherineurban.com, where you can book your next astrology reading. We'll go into depth into your natal chart, your progressions, your perfections, your solar return, your transits, and beyond. You can also join my mailing list where you can stay up to date with me on new classes as well as article drops. I look forward to connecting with you, and I'll see you next time.